morning and welcome to Waters Garden Center. My name is Michelle, and today's class is going to be on planting in our mountain soils. It's kind of a newbie class, but it's a good refresher for everybody else on how to plant in our nasty rocky soils. So just a little background. If you guys are new, a lot of questions are asked about when to plant in the spring, fall. Can I plant at any time? And the answer is yes. So optimally, for deciduous trees, spring is the perfect time for planting. For evergreens, fall is the optimal planting. That being said, you can plant at any point because our soil doesn't freeze all the way down, so you can usually get a shovel into it so you can actually plant. There definitely ultimate times are better. I always try to tell people May and June is really tricky. It can be done, but it gets tricky because we are so hot and dry. The wind blows all the time and it just kind of takes that moisture right out of the plants. But if you're paying attention to your water situation, it can be done. So you can plant at any point in this area. What I want to do is talk about what you need to do before you come in to purchase plants or trees in your area. So you kind of want to take a look at your location. How much sun is it going to get? How much shade does it get? Because the plants are going to, depending on which situation is where you're going to put them. So if you have a really shady area, we want to look for those plants that are going to do better in the shade. If you have a full sunny area, we can look for those that are going to be perfect for the sun. With both of those, size matters. So, if you have this small yard, we want to pick the right tree for you so it'll fit when it gets big. Everybody kind of wants this perfect plant right now. I don't care, I'm not going to be there in 10 years. Well, if you get this great big tree, it's going to take up your whole yard. Probably not the right one to put in there, but decision's yours. But the people that move in next will appreciate it. So we're going to help you with that. When you think about your planting, when I ask what size do you want it to be, we have smaller trees that, are going to get in that 20-foot size range, which make perfect shade trees. There are also the ones that are going to get 40 feet, and for some yards, that's going to be perfect for you. So what I'm going to do is kind of break things down as far as size. We're going to go through some shady stuff, some desert stuff. We're going to do some show and tell to begin with, and then we'll go into the planting of it, okay? So let's start with the ornamentals first, since I have these guys here. This is a weeping cherry tree, and it's perfect for those smaller areas, and it's very, very pretty. This is the Shields weeping cherry. This guy, basically he's going to be this tall from this once you get him planted, but his canopy is going to grow. So he's going to get probably a good 5 feet on top with the weeping. So this is a great ornamental tree. The weeping cherries bloom in the spring and have usually a gold orange fall color. So it's a great thing if you have a small courtyard or looking for something just for a pop of color in the spring time to get your courtyard working or your landscape working. Maybe I shouldn't wear the cowboy hat today. So we have a couple of the Forsythia trees. This is basically your magical gold forsythia that they put on a rootstock. So the tree itself will be this tall, but you're going to get the full magical, which is another 5 feet on top of it. So this is another great ornamental. Makes a statement. So if you needed a focal point in a corner or such, it's a great one. Once the forsythia blooms, you will get just green leaves. So it's a great little smaller tree. If you're looking for something in a pot, if you have a small deck or a small balcony that you just want some plants on, this is a great one for a pot. We also have some lilacs that are on a standard, which are really pretty. I believe they're the Miss Kim. So on top of their stalk, you will get another 6 to 8 feet. And this is one of my favorite lilacs. This is the Blue Skies lilac. It's your old-fashioned lilac, so it's going to get in that 6 to 10 foot tall. This one has light lavender blue flowers. Really, really pretty. Fragrant is all get out, just like the old-fashioned lilacs. It's just a little bit of different flower color on this. Lilacs have come a long way in the past few years. All sorts of varieties, all sorts of flower colors. There is a one out called the Bloomerang, which is really cool as well, because it gives you 2 or 3 sets of blooms through the year instead of just blooming the one time, which is kind of cool. So with lilacs and forsythias, just a maintenance tip, once your lilacs and forsythias bloom, give them a haircut. If you need to trim, that's when you trim. You never want to trim these in the fall or early spring, because if you do, you're going to pull all your blooms off. The buds form on new wood, so you always want to shape it after the blooming season. And this one is the Bloomerang that I was telling you about. The other nice thing about this is that it only gets about 4 foot tall, so it's a smaller one, so it makes a better use for those smaller gardens. And like I said, you will get a couple, 2 or 3 blooming seasons. So once this is done blooming, you're going to give it a haircut, get all the buds off, and then why am I doing that? You're going to cut all the blooms off and then fertilize it, and then let it grow back, and you should get another set of blooms. Once that blooms again, you're going to repeat that session. Cut all the blooms or the dead buds off, and then I'm just going to move this way. And then you cut the dead blooms off, fertilize, and you're good to go. Yeah. The lilac, her question was, do the lilacs need shade or sun? They are a full sun plant, but they can survive in a little bit of shade. So I would say 6 or more hours and you'll be okay. The trees, all full sun. I haven't talked about any shady stuff yet. Let's talk a little bit about roses. Rose season is just about upon us. These are the Grit and Grace. It's a shrub rose, gorgeous flower, very fragrant. I love the Grit and Grace. They're all going to get about 5 feet tall and wide, so a nice bush. Flowers are spectacular, and they come in many shades of colors. So yellows, peach, reds. There's a bicolor pink that's kind of has the two pink and white in it. There's a dark red that works really well. So these are great shrub rows where if you don't want maintenance, like a hybrid tea rose where you have to go out and deadhead all the time, these are perfect for you because you don't have to do that. Barberries are another one of my favorite plants. These guys they are pokey, but they have fabulous color and multicolors. So this one is the Hellman's. This one is going to be the red color. It's more upright, so it's more columnar as far as your plant goes. There are ones that get 2x2. There's ones that get 4x4. So we probably have a barberry that will fit in your space needs. There's ones that are orange that have that orangey color, bronze. So a lot of different ways to use them for color in your yards. These guys are deciduous, so they will lose their leaves. But they have little red berries in the fall, and they kind of keep their red-brown limb color, so they are kind of interesting in the wintertime. Yes? Yeah, they're not completely slow, but the one thing that is different about here is our soil conditions are so bad that it takes a little bit longer for things to get established. And once they start getting that root system established, then we'll get growth. So usually it takes a couple of years to fully establish. Have yours been in longer than that? Okay. Yeah. So after your second year, that's when you're going to see it push. Yeah. This guy here is a dwarf garden juniper. Great little shrub. Gorgeous color. This one will only get about a foot tall and spread out about 8 feet wide. So if you have your rock garden and you just need some spots of green, these are great. Not a lot of maintenance. You can cut them back if you want to, if they get out of control. I had a gentleman in here the other day that was looking to do a bonsai with these. So a lot of multi-uses for these little plants. And I love this time of year because we can talk about everything. Vines are starting to come in. If you have privacy needs or places where you need a little height, vines are a great plant for those areas. There's all sorts of different varieties of vines. There are some for the shade, and then there's some for the full sun. Most of the vines that we get are for full sun, just because we have so many full sun areas that we need to take care of. This is the purple leaf honeysuckle. Beautiful flowers on this guy. Really pretty pink, orange, and red flowers. There are honeysuckles that have more beautiful flowers. The Hall's Japanese honeysuckle is an evergreen, which is kind of nice because he doesn't go dormant like this guy will in the summer or in the winter time and just leave you sticks. So somebody asked me, can you mix them? And I definitely recommend, if you want some evergreen color, mix your vines up. You get some really pretty flowers, plus you get that evergreen look that can give you some extra coverage for the wintertime. Let's talk perennials a little bit. Perennials, now is a great time to get some perennials planted. I need a chair. I knew something was missing. It's like I don't usually bend over so much. Perfect. Okay. So spring is great for perennials. This guy here is actually an evergreen. This is the Dianthus carnation. Beautiful silver gray foliage. Gorgeous flowers that bloom all spring through fall. Just deadhead them, really important part. If you want to continue to keep blooming, you need to go out and just clip the edges off or the flowers off. Yarrow, great perennial, very drought tolerant, really pretty ferny look. All sorts of different colors. This one's the paprika, so it's a dark orangey red. Butterflies love this plant, so it's a great one for a butterfly garden. Gets a patch about 2 feet wide and really low maintenance. Not a lot of water is required for these guys. The Scabiosa is another butterfly plant. Purple flowers that bloom, again, another one that'll bloom from April to November. Little daisy-like flowers. The butterflies love to land on these in the late fall. We have a whole table down there in the monarchs and the ladybird, pink ladies, lady somethings. Butterflies are all over them. Scabiosa or pink cushion flower. This one here is kind of unique. This is the, really? Thank you. My mind just went blank. Society garlic, little grassy foliage and beautiful flowers. This one will bloom off and on throughout the summer. Anybody that has animals, this one is a great one for you because they don't like it. So put it on the outskirts if you do have deer or rabbits, javelina, they'll leave this one alone. And all of these are great for the full sunshine. This is a creeping phlox. This is another sunny ground cover. Comes in a variety of different colors. Right now I have this, this is called red wings. There is a candy stripe down there, which is a light pink and white flower. This one will get another patch of about 3 feet. It stays nice and green throughout the summer, and depending on our winter, it can stay green during the winter as well. It just depends on how cold we get. This is a spring bloomer. If you do give it a light haircut after it's finished blooming, usually you'll get a lighter blue in the fall. Autumn sage. This is my favorite plant in this area. It's one that's very, very easy to grow. Comes in a variety of different colors. Animals do not like this, so it's a great one for all of you that are out there in the wilderness that have rabbits and bunnies and javelinas. Hummingbirds, this is the plant for hummingbirds. We get them down and they're just full. We have 4 or 5 of them down in the lower house when these guys come in. This one's a pink sparkle. There is the radio red, which is a dark, deep red. Ignition purple is actually a really pretty purple flower. So if you have a color that you're looking for, you pretty much have it. Coral, white. So a lot of options as far as color goes. Peonies. So this one will kind of get us set up for next week's class because the next week's class is on peonies. Peonies are great to get them planted now. The sooner you can get them planted, the more chances are that you're actually going to get a bloom this year. Sometimes when you plant them right before they're going to bloom, sometimes you won't actually get them because you shocked them. But now's a great time to get them in and get them established. Come in again, another variety of colors, reds, pinks, whites, yellows. So there's an option out there for you, any color. Yeah. Her question was, do peonies like the sun or the shade? So there is a lot of different answers to that question. I have one in the sun, full sun. He does just fine. I have one in the shade. He does just fine too. So I'm going to be kind of on the fence on that, but we've never had any problem with either or. Basically, if you are not getting a bloom, it could be because it's planted too high or too deep. A lot of that happens. They need to be just at the right level. So when you plant this, you want to make sure it's very even with the soil that you're putting it into. Because if it's too deep, it won't bloom. If it's too high, it won't. The other thing with peonies, and Ken will probably go into this next week as well, but fertilization in the fall and spring is really important for them. So if you have peonies at home, you do want to fertilize them now. Absolutely. Right. So we're going to pass around the clipboard. This is so you can get a copy of the class in any of the handouts that we're going to give out. It'll probably have the 10 top things to plant this time of year. And there's a couple other things that he's going to attach it to the email. So we just need your name and your email. Try to print it as easy as you can, because sometimes if we can't read it, you're not going to get it. So. Alrighty. There's not too many people like us that have actual shade, but for those that do, this is for you. So we'll start with the columbine. Columbines are great spring bloomers. Hummingbirds love this thing. Anything with a trumpet-like flower, the hummingbirds really love. Columbines typically bloom in the spring and the summer, or spring and the fall, sorry. Definitely a shady plant here in Prescott. For those that are new, while I'm thinking of that, make sure that you talk to our folks. These folks print signs for the entire country, and we are in Prescott, Arizona. So we have a couple of things against us. We are at a mile-high elevation, and we have no humidity whatsoever in the summertime. So it tends to make plants react differently than anywhere else in the country. So things that usually go in full sun in most places, these are shade. So just make sure you talk to somebody and we'll help you out with that. Once we get all set up, everything should be labeled. We do have a shady section and a sunny section, so we'll try to help with that. But always ask, that's what we're here for. Heuchera or corabels. These guys are a great sunny or shady plant, and it's all about the foliage on these guys. Variety of different leaf colors, reds. This is Forever Red, which is just spectacular. And if you put that next to this, or even there's a dark purple one that's almost black down there, it's just gorgeous. So get creative with it. Love the shade, great in pots. I've seen a couple this year that are on the kind of northeast side of a house that didn't even die back this year. So it just kind of depends on where you have them. and how cold it gets in that spot, whether they'll die back to the ground or they'll stay color for you. This is the blue lupin. This is another shady plant, gorgeous flowers. Anybody from Texas, they're a friend of the Texas bluebonnets. These just do really well in our gardens in the shade. So great shrubby plant. A couple of shady shrubs. This is the sweet starred gardenia. And yes, you can grow gardenias here in Prescott, but they do need the shade. So it's that hot afternoon shade that we're looking for. It's not the morning. They can't tolerate our hot afternoon sunshine, and that's our problem. Gorgeous flowers, very fragrant. This guy will kind of get in that 3 to 5 feet tall and wide. You can do those in a container, absolutely. This is a beautiful azalea, another shady shrub. This one will get in that 5x5 as well. These guys are semi-evergreen, which means they may or may not lose their leaves. Again, it's one of those that it's a spring bloomer, so prune after it's done to make your shape and so on. Yes? Okay. Basically, her comment is that she planted one in the wrong spot. So again, that's why we're here. We want to help you. And unfortunately, we can't change all the plant tags because they're really pretty and it's very time consuming. But that's what we're here for. That's what we pride ourselves in as we work here. We have the knowledge to help you be successful. So don't hesitate to ask questions. And there's no stupid question. They're always smart questions. So this bloom time for the azaleas is usually early spring to early summer, and depending on our weather, if we don't get any rain or wind, they'll last longer. As soon as you start adding those elements, then we have some issues. So this group is more for very drought tolerant, more native for those folks that kind of don't want to mess with things too much. All of this stuff, the next 4 plants, you can go without water for about 2 weeks. You probably want to keep an eye on it for the first year just to make sure that the roots get going, but every 2 weeks watering. Once these guys are established, you guys are going to have some beautiful plants. Hi, Kenzie. This is a softleaf yucca, and there are some out there that are probably would be about this tall planted. These guys will get about 5x5. Gorgeous white flowers. I don't know if you guys can see this, but beautiful yucca type flowers on this one. And they usually bloom every year. These guys are evergreen, so they will keep their foliage and it'll look just like this all year round. This one here is called Bright Star. And this is spectacular, especially in the wintertime. You can kind of just see these guys just came in, so they haven't gotten used to the cold. I have one in a bright blue pot, fabulous color combination, but it's basically all this yellow is a pinkish red, and it's just spectacular right now. These guys will get again another 4 foot by 4 foot. Really, really pretty. Sun, full sun. We basically have more sunny plants than shady plants. There are some, but yeah. Okay. So this is a gopher plant. Does it repel gophers? The gophers don't like it. So maybe. Yeah, they leave this alone. It is a euphorbia, so it has that white milky substance to it. But this one's just getting ready to bloom. It's a bright yellow flower, and they're spectacular. The nice thing about this is they do tend to get these things, they kind of bloom themselves out. All you have to do is cut this back, and you'll get a whole new bunch of new little babies out there. So great plant, low maintenance, easy to care for, perfect plant. Okay. Sure. You can cut those back, usually February, March, yeah. That's just kind of up to you, whether what kind of look you want. I actually cut mine back because I thought they looked really straggly. Yeah, because they were naked until like the top 3 inches. It's like that doesn't look good, so I did cut it all back, and I just have that new bunch, and it'll bloom once that gets going. Okay, so this is a Santa Rita prickly pear. So this is the baby prickly pear. Most of the regular prickly pears are going to get 4 or 5 foot by 5 foot. This guy stays smaller. And the really cool thing about this, it has gorgeous orange flowers. Really, really pretty. Great in the landscape. Cactus has pokey things, but a real asset to most landscapes. Okay. Let's do a couple more ornamental trees, and then we'll go into planting. Can you see that? Or do you want me to lift it up? Okay. This is an Oklahoma redbud. Great little tree. Get about 15, 20 foot tall and wide. I love this selection because he's branched out from the bottom all the way to the top. So you'll have a more shrubby look to the tree. Now, there are a couple of Oklahomas that are more tree-like, so you just have your canopy. Same beautiful flowers. Great thing about redbuds is they do have heart-shaped leaves. And they have a variety of different color leaves. So if you kind of like that purpley leaf look for the Merlot redbud or the forest pansy. Both of those have that purple leaf to them, and they still have the heart shape. The rest of them are all going to be nice green, glossy leaves. All right. So this is a radiant crabapple. Beautiful tree. Spectacular flowers. This one's one of the bigger crabapples that we carry. He'll get in that 20, 25 foot range. Gorgeous fall foliage. He kind of turns bright orange bronzy color in the fall. Yes, he does have crab apples, but most of us are really bird lovers. So I say let the birds have them. They need as much food as we can give them, right? They are messy, so I understand that. There are a few varieties out there that look at the tags and look for a phrase called persistent. Persistent means that the crab apples will actually hold on to the tree, so you won't get that drop, and it allows that bird to get them before you get the mess on the ground. The spring snow is one that is, it's a white flower that does not have crab apples. And then there's another one called snow something else, and it does not have apples. So both of those are good varieties if you want the spring color, but don't want the crabs or crab apples. Okay. So let's move on to planting. And while I'm over here, I'm going to pull this guy over. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about container planting in a container. So the most important thing that you are looking for when you are planting in a container is you want your container to be about twice the size as the bucket that it's in. That will allow the plant to get some good roots to it. If you take a plant that this wide and you put it in this pot, he's going to outgrow the pot so soon that it was a waste of time. So make sure that you give it a little space for it to grow and to get healthy for you. And we will help you find the right plant for the pots. There are a lot of plants that are great in pots. So when you're looking at your plants, you want something that's going to stay probably small, not get too much bigger than the pot that you're going to put it in. So for something like this, I'm going to try to keep plants in there that'll get about 3 feet by 3 feet. Or they can get taller, but we don't want it to get too much wider. This is a sea green or sea gold juniper. It's been cut in a spiral topiary way. So this one is really easy to maintain. So if you start getting little offshoots, you just clip them off and you can keep this spiral pattern. Looks great in blue pots with the yellow. And he will just continue to get taller. The topiaries are great for pots because they're not going to get as wide as the normal shrub would. But this one's an awesome one. And they look great in front of a door. Okay. So planting a shrub, and it'll be the same with the tree, but for planting purposes, you want to dig your hole twice as wide and just as deep as it's sitting in this pot. So if it's sitting deeper in the pot, you're only going to dig a hole this deep. I always have a wheelbarrow with me when I go out to plant. I put the soil that I dig out. I kind of go through and get rid of the big rocks that are in there, and then I'll add the mulch to it when I go to backfill. So it's 2/3 natural soil because they do need to get used to living in the soil that you're going to put them in. Our soils are mostly clay. Some of us have more decomposed granite, so they drain really easy. You still want to add that mulch to it. If you have drainage issues, you might want to think about creating a berm or a planting bed to plant in, just so you get some better drainage for your plants. Plants do not like to stay wet. It's usually one of the biggest reason plants die is they're either too wet or too dry. And we usually kill them with kindness opposed to neglect. So neglect your plants, at least a little bit. So if I was going to plant this rose, I would dig my hole about this big, and you want this nice base shape. Because that vase shape, and you want the edges kind of roughed up. So you never want to dig a hole when your soil is wet. If you cut a shovel into your soil and it's wet, you're kind of creating a concrete wall for them to get, so the roots won't penetrate that area. So take a little trowel or one of those rake things and rough the edges of your hole up, and then just backfill with the mulch and your natural soil that you dug out, and then backfill and fill it in. Once it's filled in, kind of step on it and pack it down. Add the 744 on top, water it in, and then on the last watering, use the root and grow treatment. It's 2 tablespoons per gallon. So if I was going to plant this, I would water it in really good and mix it up in a 2-gallon bucket with the root and grow, and then I'd water it in with that. For a tree, you're going to kind of do the same thing. Your hole is going to get a good 3 foot wide, just as deep as it is here. So we're going to go probably 12, 13 inches down. And again, just mix that soil with the mulch and you're all set to go. Same backfill, same fertilizer, and then the root and grow treatment. When you're doing a tree, you do want to stake them. So 2 stakes. Our wind is notorious from basically the beginning of March through May, sometimes June. Usually once the monsoons hit, we kind of get rid of it a little bit, and then we just get the gusty thunderstorms when the monsoons come through. But staking a tree is really, really important because of our winds. You want that tree to be nice and straight. When you stake the tree, if you buy the stake kits, we provide a strap that is included in it that'll allow the tree to move a little bit. We want this trunk to be nice and healthy and secure. So the more it moves, the stronger your trunk's going to be. We just don't want the root ball moving, and that's what the stake's for. Yes, sir. His question was, does gypsum break down the clay? And it doesn't necessarily break it down, but it helps open it up so the trees can actually suck in more nutrients and water. Gypsum, if you have a very heavy clay soil, we definitely recommend gypsum on the bottom of the hole. So taking care of your new plants once they're planted. So right now, there's kind of 4 seasons of watering for this area. And the soil is so different, it's hard to say you're going to water twice a week for your new plants. I can't say that, but I want you to start with that. So once you've got something planted, right now, we're not that hot. The trees aren't, especially if they're dormant, they're not intaking a lot of water right now. So probably once a week is what you should be watering right now. You could definitely turn your systems back on, unless we have some weird cold snap like Texas had a couple months ago. You won't get the frosts that'll mess up your system. Once a week watering, as long as it's deep watering, will be sufficient. So whatever size of bucket that you purchase for your tree, like this guy's a 10-gallon, he should be getting 10 gallons of water every time you water. A lot of people ask me, my system is all run on one system. How do I do that? So you need to up your emitters. And one of the most important things about being a gardener is to learn your drip system. Because if you come in and say, something's wrong with my plant, I'm going to ask you, how much water are you giving it? I don't know. I'm watering 10 minutes every 3 days. 10 minutes is like throwing a shot glass of water on your plant. It's not doing anything except getting the top half an inch of soil wet. The root systems on our plants will go out to the drip line. So if I was looking at this tree and it had been planted for 3 years, my drip system is out here. So this is where you should be watering. If you have these big, enormous 30-foot trees, your drip line is out at the ends. If your drippers are still at the base, you're not watering your tree. You're watering that little hole that's around it, but your feeder roots are way out here. So make sure you're watering way out here. Adding extra dripper spaghetti tubes helps get you that volume while your little perennials won't get as much. So like this should get a 1 gallon emitter. This guy here, 2 gallons. So whether you do 2 1 gallons, which is where I would start, I would do 2 spaghetti tubes for this, and then do a 1 gallon emitter on each side. That way you're ready as it gets bigger to expand. This guy I would do 4 and do 4 2 gallons. We're pretty close to that 10, or do a 4. I think there's a 4 gallon emitter. So just so you're kind of ahead of the game, because as your plants grow, its water needs are going to grow. So as it, just like you start with as a baby and you get this much food, and now we're eating this much food. So we just got to expand with the size of the plant. Feeding your plants. We feed here a lot. And when I say a lot, so deciduous trees, which are the ones that lose their leaves, you're going to feed 3 times a year. March, July, October, and then we add for evergreens. I forgot to talk about them. For evergreens, we do January or December. So that food is really, really important because our soil does not have a lot of nutrients in it, and a lot of it is not available because of our high pH levels that we have here. If you have a soil test, 9 times out of 10, we're going to tell you have very high pH. It's in our soil. It's that salt content that's in our soils and in our water system. So our food, the 744, these 20 compounds get heavier and heavier as I go. So the 744 actually has sulfur in it. And this is a slow release fertilizer that we apply the 3 or 4 times a year. This is great for all your plants. We try to keep it very simple. We do have a couple other fertilizers out there. I have a fruit and veggie one that works well for bright, very tasty fruit. It also has that calcium content for like tomatoes and squash plants for your vegetable garden that keeps that blossom end rot. So we can help you with your fertilizer needs. There's also a flower power, which works on your flowering containers. Anything that you want to keep blooming all summer long, we put the flower power on. And it's a water soluble fertilizer that we put on every 2 weeks. So when you do fertilize, we do this at the drip line as well. So make sure that you're fertilizing often and your trees will be nice and healthy. When a tree gets stressed, that's when we start seeing bugs. As soon as a tree gets stressed, you'll also see it's like a neon sign coming out. Come on and see me, and so it's like with the pine bark beetle. If a pine tree is stressed out, typically you will end up with the pine bark beetle because they can sense it and it's easy to get into. If a tree's nice and healthy, that sap will actually, when they try to go in, that sap will just push them back out. So if your trees are healthy, they won't need the plant protector. Speaking of, the plant protector for those evergreens that get stressed out, which pretty much everybody that has an evergreen right now, it's probably stressed out. The last 2 years, we've had no monsoon, hardly ever, or much of any monsoon at all. So we've been watering on our own to keep them healthy. And that watering is really, really important. So make sure that your trees always check, like going back to that. If you purchase a new plant and you plant it, you check it on Monday or you water it on Monday, check it on Friday. If it's still moist, 3 or 4 inches down, don't water it. Let it go another couple of days. If it's dry, definitely give it its next 10 gallons. But if your soil is wet, don't water. Because of our clay, it holds that moisture longer. So it's great for moisture retention, but it can basically drown and strangle your plant if you keep it too wet. And that's what happens a lot of the time. Plant protector, we need to get this on soon because the trees are really intaking it right now. We are seeing a uptick in scale. I've had 4 or 5 people bringing in branches that had full blast scale this week. So if you haven't treated them, now's the time to do it, just to protect your trees. This is the root and grow that I was speaking of when you do plant. It comes in the quart and then the gallon jar. This is a great stress reducer. So if you have a plant that's not doing well, do this every couple of weeks, and it just stimulates the hair roots of the plant and get them back into motion. And gets them back moving where we want them to go. This is also a great house plant. Okay. I don't know that you need to see this, but this is the fruit and vegetable food. Like I said, I love this for my vegetable garden, and I have a bunch of fruit trees that I use it on as well. So great fertilizer for your fruit-bearing plants. If you just have one fruit-bearing plant and the rest is all of this stuff, do you need to buy a bag of this? Not necessarily. The 744 is a great fertilizer. So get what you need. Premium mulch. This is what we use to backfill. So it's 2/3 natural soil and then 1/3 of this. So if you are planting this Baccarat spruce, you're going to need probably 2 bags to mix in with the soil, because if you're planting that guy, you've got probably a 50-inch hole that you're digging. So you're going to need probably 1.5 bags. So her question was, is she composts and can she use that instead of this? Yeah, you can. When you purchase a plant from Waters Garden Center, we warranty it if you buy our mulch. The mulch is $8.99 a bag, but there is a discount. The more bags you buy, the cheaper it gets. So for $9, you get a 2-year 50/50 warranty on the tree itself. So if anything happens to this tree in the 2 years, we go halves on the cost. Um, um, we take half responsibility, you take half the responsibility. That being said, we are here for you. So if you are looking at your garden and it's like, ooh, that tree doesn't look good. It has yellow leaves or, something's going on. Take pictures, bring us a snip of leaves, we have a microscope down front that we can take a look at stuff. We are starting to get into the bug season. Probably a couple weeks away, we'll start seeing the aphids and the thrips. Let us help you diagnose your tree. Like 9 out of 10 is a watering issue, just trying to figure it out for your particular property. And it's not as easy as you think. Each location, even if it's 10 feet apart, the soil's not the same in those two spots. You might have some more rocks or better drainage here, and you have more clay over here. So just trying to figure it out, it's not easy. So let us help you. Any questions? Yeah. So her question she's running behind on her chores, and she has the dormant oil spray, and should she do the plant protector? It depends on what we're taking care of. So okay. Okay. So the thing with the dormant oil, we put it on when it's dormant. So if your tree is leafing out and flowering, it's probably past time to put it on. So for the purple leaf plum, your aspens, that's what I would put the plant protector on. Yeah. A fence. Not the answer you want. So again, it kind of depends on what we're talking about. Trees, and usually they don't mess with them until fall. They might nibble a few leaves on the bottom, but usually you don't get the damage on the trunk until fall. So putting up a fence around in that fall time frame will protect your tree. I was also told if you get that riprack rock, it's got pointy edges. It's on a fence frame, and use that as a kind of a well around your tree. The deer don't like can't talk today. Does not like to step on that because of the sharp edges on the rocks. I haven't tested that theory, but I was told it works. Yes. Sure. Okay. 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 Right. So no, we don't want to use a bag or more. So what you want to do when you're putting your fertilizer down, go out and kind of measure your tree kind of at chest level. So this guy's about an inch around. So he would get a cup of fertilizer around the drip line. If your tree is like this, you know, it's probably 6 to 10 inches around. So you're going to double that. So it's a cup per inch, or 2 cups per inch. Sorry, I just said that wrong. So this would get 2 cups around the drip line of the tree. If you had a 10-inch tree, it's going to get 20 cups. And there is 40 cups in the 20-pound bag of fertilizer. So with a shrub, I usually do, you know, if it's a 3-foot shrub, it gets a cup. If it's a 5-foot shrub, like my butterfly bushes is about good 5 or 6 feet, they get 4 cups. So I just put it around the edges and let it water it, you know, water it in as I water. So it just depends on the size. The instructions are on the bag. With our bag goods, there is a discount. The more you buy, the cheaper they get. So kind of think of that in the long term. You know, if you only need 3 bags of fertilizer at a time, get for next month, and you'll save $4, $5 or $6. Mulch, premium mulch is what we use to amend the soils. The potting soil. This is what we use to plant in containers. If you're doing a raised bed, you can use this. There is no fertilizer or any of that in here. It's just straight soil. So we like to add our own fertilizer and know exactly how much fertilizer we're using, opposed to that other guy that puts fertilizer in the soil and we never know how much food is actually on there, or do I need to add more, or do I not? So this is just basic potting soil. So we use this for all our pots and raised beds. Barnyard manure is great for vegetable gardens. If you are planning on starting a garden in May, or the end of April, I'd get that barnyard manure in there now. Usually I mix half this and half the barnyard manure, add a little soil sulfur, a little gypsum in there, and you're ready to go for planting season at the end of April. Just let it kind of seep in and soak up all the nutrients. Let it break down a little bit. Any other questions? Anything I didn't answer? Yes. Her question is in the pots, do you mix native soil with that soil? No, it's light and fluffy. It'll hold the moisture in. So no, you don't need to, it's just gonna make your pot heavy, real heavy. This is just more premium planting space. You won't have to dig so hard. Anybody else? If you like what you saw, like and subscribe to the video. And everybody here, like I said, if you signed up on the clipboards, we'll make sure you get all sorts of good information. I will be around if you have individual questions. I'll be happy to answer for them. Or I've got Radar, Kevin's here, Mackenzie's here, so we will try to answer your questions as best we can. All right. Thanks for coming. I appreciate all of you. Have a great day. Hi.